Hey, this is Daniel Schottler, aka D-Shot. If you're like what you're listening to, what I provide, follow me on Twitter, DShot1992. I also have a Facebook page and a blog. So here's a little bit of a Warhawks Sports Report. The basketball teams just took to the court for about a week. They've been playing. The men's basketball team in their first game won 60-38 on the 16th. KJ Evans led the team that night with 14 points. And they took the court in the 18th against Concordia, 106-70. Big surprise from that game was Steve Egan. He had 20 points. He was a big surprise to me because I thought the leading scorer would be somebody like KJ Evans or one of the other big usual suspects that usually step up. He came in the game. He got a lot of playing time in that game because Reggie Hearn got in the foul trouble early, so that was a big performance from him. And then this past Friday, the Warhawks beat Hope College 83-70 and improved to 3-0. In that game, the Warhawks had 4 in double figures. They were led by Eric Bryson with 19, and then Cordell Young and KJ Evans both had 16. Reggie Hearn had 12. And they shot 80. Big thing in that game was the free throw differential. The Warhawks shot 27 free throws and 13 free throws. Hope College only shot 13. So, that was a big factor in the game. Kind of an interesting thing from the Warhawks was that they shot 43.5% for the game, and Hope College shot only 47%. So the Warhawks definitely doing well at the beginning of the season. The biggest key for them this year is going to be the front line. It's been interesting in the last 2 years. They lost last year. They did a really good job at replacing Chris Davis last year. Now they're going to have to replace another good player. Obviously, Davis was the National Athlete of the Year in 2012. With they won the national championship. Now they have to replace a guy who was a key for them last year, and he was a big three-point shooter for them, a big player down low as a center. And Darnell Harris, who originally transferred to a JUCO school in Florida and then committed to a Division I school in Middle Tennessee State. He's been like 5 schools in 3 years, which is absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, Coach Pat Miller is looking for Reggie Hearn to start at the 5 this year. He'll have the tough task of replacing Harris in the lineup. He had 3.7 points per game last year with 2.6 rebounds, and he's had a good start to the season this year. Also, KJ Evans is going to start at the 4. He averaged 8.8 points per game last year. And Coach Pat Miller says he's had a good fall and put some weight and gotten stronger, and he's happy with those 2 guys at the 4 and 5. As for the rest of the front line up, look for, obviously, Steve Egan. He's had a good start of the season. Miles Chamberlain's had some good minutes. Jack Hiram came in late on Friday night when the game was getting towards its end. Anyways, the front line is going to be a big issue, and Pat Miller knows that. He said when I interviewed him for the Royal Purple preview that's going to be out in a few weeks, he said, I think the lack of depth in the front line is going to be our issue, and he feels that Steve Egan has played well, and he expects they need some of the newcomers to step up, and also he made a point of that they want Miles Chamberlain to be healthy. He had an ACL injury last year. He's feeling some residual effects from that injury. Another reason why the front line needs to be good this year, they didn't typically really rebound that well last year. They had 930 rebounds last year and averaged 32.1 per game to about, I think, 30. Their opponents averaged like 30 rebounds per game. And Darnell Harris had 171 of those 930 rebounds. So he was the leader in that category. As for rebounding, Cordell Young said That'll be key for them, and they've definitely been decreasing in size by the year. It's been kind of taking a toll on them. So, they definitely have the strength of this team is guard play. The Warhawks got a few good, like 5 good, really good, solid guards that they'll go to this year. Cordell Young, Cody Odegaard, Alex Mert, Eric Bryson, Patrick Suter. According to Miller, he likes how they have different skill sets. Cordell Young, who led the team in a lot of the categories last year. He's a great penetrator, can get to the basket and create for other people. He led the team with 11.9 points per game last year, 3.7 assists, as well as 1.8 steals per game. Guys like Cody Odegaard, who could have been a big player for the Warhawks last year. He got hurt early in the season last year and missed a significant amount of time. I think if they would have had him for the run for a possible repeat, the Warhawks exited in the second round last year with a 64-60 loss against North Central. I think if he would have played that game, I think they would have had a better chance of winning. Both Merg and Shooter can do what Jan and Odegaard can do. Bryson is a great rebounder from the guard spot, good defender and knock down shots. Cordell Young said that they're going to be competitive as always, but the defense is going to be a little bit more important than the offense. They know that they can score, and they're not really worried about the productivity there. It's just they need to rebound more. We got a new assistant coach, Nick Bennett, who has ridiculous coaching genes. He played under his father, Jack, at Stevens Point, and he won 2 national championships in 04 and 05. His uncle coached the Badgers, as some Badger fans can remember, and he had stops at the Point as well in Green Bay. His cousin Tony is head coach at Virginia. His cousin Kathy is the women's basketball coach at Northern Illinois. But Nick Bennett, prior to being under Pat Miller's staff, coached under Tom Crean, and he had stops at Florida Gulf Coast and Texas Pan American. And Coach Miller feels that he's been great, brought some good experience, not only from his days at Point, but from his prior coaching experience. So, anyways, on to the women's team. They're 4-0. They've gotten off to a good start. Big player for them lately, Amy Mandrell, who's been stepping up. The front line is going to be a key for them this year, because they lost 3 bigs to eligibility in Courtney Kumaro, Emily McCulloch, and Steph Glenn. They also lost Lisa Palmer, an ACL injury prior to the season, and she was a big player for them last year. They're going to be really good at the guard spots. They're starting 4 guards, I think, this year. Mary Merg, who landed on Sports Center. Caitlin Thiel, who's one of the hardest guards to press in Division III women's hoops. Kitty Burden is a senior. And then Abby Reese, who had a big impact last year as a freshman. So they look all right. I think they were ranked 4th preseason. I think that could have gone a little bit lower because of the loss of Palmer, but they're having a good start to the season and see if they continue. It could still be a chance that both of these teams could be in the run for a national championship. I think it's more likely with the guys' team. So on the football, the Warhawks played St. Norbert this past weekend on Saturday night and Saturday afternoon. Won 31-7. The Warhawks got on the board early, 3-0, and then it continued to be a defensive battle for part of the game. The Warhawks got up 10-0 at the end of the half, and then it was 10-7, 17-7, and then 24-7, 31. Then final score is 31-7. Warhawks total 414 yards. Matt Barrett was 24 for 38 for 279 yards, connecting with Justin Howard 11 times. So half his completions were at Howard, which was tied for most by the Warhawks this season with 11, and St. Norbert has allowed from a wide receiver this season. Ryan Gibbons really had a big impact on the game. He played some defense, and he also played on the offensive side of the ball. He had 25 carries and 125 yards. Cole Klotz led the defense with 10 tackles and 1 tackle for a loss and an interception. I believe his Lance Leipold's 90th win as coach. 90-6, which is absolutely incredible since he took over for Bob Brezowitz in 2007. Their next game is against Franklin. They've met 3 previous times and won all 3 of them. First in the 2010 playoffs with a score of 52-21. Actually, 2 of those games were in the playoffs by the same score. And then they played in the regular season in 2011 at the 45-0 win at Franklin. So, good playoff win. One of my big surprises for this team is, the running game a bit, because I expected Patterson and Gibbons to lead this team rushing-wise, but they've been nicked up at that spot with Patterson being out for the season early, and then Dennis Moore, who stepped up in the first game against WashU, and then he got nicked up and he got out for the season, and then all of a sudden you're stuck to three key backs in Jordan Ratliff and Booker Ross, who are freshmen, who really made an impact, having some games that were 100+ rushing. Good tandem right there. Ryan Gibbons got nicked up a bit during the season, came back for this playoff run. Great wide receiving core. Joe Worth got nicked up in the game against St. Norbert with an apparent leg injury. Should be back for next week. We'll see. So I think for the road ahead, I think they can beat beat Franklin next week, and then just the competition gets tougher. Linfield would probably be next on the schedule, and then that would be. And they were ranked number 2 in the country for most of the season. That could be a home game, possibly. Warhawks have the number 1 ranking in that bracket, so that should be a home game. And then they'll play Mary Hardin Baylor, I think, after that, and it just gets tougher from here. So if the Warhawks can beat Linfield and Mary Hardin Baylor, then they'll be in the Stag Bowl against Mount Union. So I think Mount Union is going to fall off a little bit with the fact that they gave up 60+ points in their last two games in the regular season. They gave up 34 against John Carroll in their last game. John Carroll played them to the wire, and they could have possibly tied it. So I think Mount Union is going to fall off a little bit in the next few years and maybe not make the Stag Bowl. It's interesting. The interesting fact about Division III, the last 2 years, there's been a team. It doesn't matter if they won the Stag Bowl or if they lost the Stag Bowl. In the last 2 years, a team that's been in the Stag Bowl has missed. Thomas missed this year, so that's big. We'll see if that trend continues. Maybe Mount Union will miss next year. I don't know, but their competition isn't really that great in their conference. So, yeah. So for this Warhawks Sports Report, this has been Daniel Schottler. Follow me on Twitter, dshot1992.